Hey, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Straight Talk No BS. We are currently on episode 5, and I am so excited that we are on this episode. But today we are going to talk about financial responsibility in the youth and when is a good time to start, if there ever is a good time to start. Like, what do you think, Len?
No, I think it's very important. I mean, for my two children, I started teaching them, I want to say when they was about 10, 11, they started earning their allowance. I had like a little chart that when
Mm-hmm.
they started asking for certain things, they had to earn it. They had to earn their allowance and save their money. Um, and it was a combination of things. It was either your chores, or if you got 100% in school or an exam or something like that, I will reward them and give them a few dollars. And then I would teach them the responsibility of saving it. In most cases, when they have your money, they would spend it and don't think twice about it. But when they have their
Mm-hmm.
own money and you take them to the store and say, okay, use your money to buy whatever item you want,
Mm-hmm.
you see how fast they change their mind. So for me, I want to say I started my kids when they were about 10, 11. And then when they went about, I want to say there's in high school. So when they was about 14, I would say, when they were in, first year of high school was when I got them their debit cards that was linked to my account. And then I got them their non-driving IDs, or their state IDs. They had state IDs when they were about 7, 8 years old from the DMV. So I started talking to them about finances and having the proper identification for certain things, passports. We had those conversations since young. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to talk about it from a very young age. Like my son, he's had his non-driver's ID from about the same age, like 7 years old. And I remember we used to go out to do like these applications for sports and stuff, and he would just whip out his ID, 7, 8 years old. Everybody would be all shocked, like, "What you got an ID? You got a license?" Like, no, it's a under 21 non-driver's ID, but it has
Mm-hmm.
that picture, my name, and my address on it, and it's in my wallet, like a young man should. Just teaching him some sort of sense of responsibility. Like, you have to carry around your wallet on you and hold on to your
Right.
ID and
Yeah.
never lose it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So he's been carrying that around for a while. But then I got him like a little debit card from when he was about, I would say, like 11 years old. But it wasn't like I gave it to him for him to go use or whatever the case is, but it was just for him to like earn some money when we would travel somewhere, out of the state or something, and he wanted to spend a little bit. Then I would give him a debit card, but still teach him some sort of responsibility. Because when that money went out, he would come knocking on my door, or, texting me, "My mom, can you buy me this?" And I would gladly, politely say, "No, I will not buy you that, because you should have saved your money instead of buying all that junk."
No,
So
I agree.
saying no too is teaching them some sort of responsibility.
Right. So I know with me, for my son, he got his first debit card. I want to say his first year of high school, and um, it was there. I was there. It was first year of high school. It was like a student debit card that was linked to my account.
Hmm.
And when I remember when I first gave it to him, I explained to him how to use it. Um, and then he had to download the app and monitor his money and how he was spending. So I want to say the first 6 months was trying because he always spent more than what he had. But thank God I had it linked to my account, so it was never no overdrafts or anything like that. But he always spent more than he had in his account. So I'm glad he actually experienced that, how not to use it when he was 14, 15. So as he got older, he knew the proper way of using it. So,
Hmm.
right. So, with that, whatever allowance I gave him when he was in college, whatnot, he knew certain dates, check your account, you would see a transfer in there. It also gave me the ability to monitor his spending, his usage of the card, which was great as well.
Hmm.
It taught him before he left to go off to college, how to check his balance, see his spending, so he can actually be aware of how much money he is wasting on outside food or any type of frivolous thing that he doesn't even need. So
Right.
we had those conversations since very young. Um, which was one level of conversation. And then when he graduated from high school and then college, and then it was another set of financial conversation we had to have when it came to purchasing a car and um, him now making his own money and how to maneuver in this world with making purchases and stuff like that. So that was like another trying period I had to go through as well because kids think they know it all. They don't know it all.
Mhm.
You try to give them the
Yes,
right
ma'am.
tools and the path to make those decisions. Um, so I'm glad though that I introduced to him responsibility of financing when he was younger. And it's an ongoing conversation. It's definitely an ongoing
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
You
I was gonna
know,
say that you're right on that. Like it's definitely an ongoing conversation that you're gonna
correct,
have to have.
correct.
But the earlier you start, the easier it'll be when they get older, in my
And
opinion.
yes, yeah, and surprisingly enough, there is a lot of parents that don't have these conversations with their children. And even for mine, me having this conversation with them, I learned at a very young age with my parents about banking and financing, um, balancing the checkbook and whatnot. So I learned very young with that. Plus, I've been on my own since I was 16, so I had to really kind of learn how to do a lot of things on my own, which was
Mhm.
great. So my 16 to my children's 16 is like day and night. But with them, I taught them the importance of having that non-ID, your debit card. We talked about credit. We talked about spending, saving. Um, we've been having lots of conversations recently about investing, investments, investing, stocks, stuff like that, buying shares, all of that. We're having conversations about that, especially with my son. But it's conversations I think that parents have to introduce to their children. It's never too young, but introduce it to them at least when you feel they're mature enough to understand. And another great thing that parents are not aware of. Like I know when I was raised in Bermuda. So in Bermuda, credit is a big deal anywhere when it comes to credit. However, out here living in the States, credit is everything. If you have bad credit, forget about it. But the better your credit is, the easier it is for you to get loans, doors open up for you, lower interest rates. It's like the gateway to everything is to have good credit.
Mhm.
So another important tool that parents may not be aware of, that what they can do if you have good credit, and I'm saying like high 700s, 800s, that really good credit where you're a responsible adult, you pay your bills, your credit score is pretty high. Add your child to one of your credit cards. Add your child to one of your credit cards.
Oh yeah. Mhm. They
At their
have to be
stage,
at least like what, 14, I think, to be
right,
able
but
to add
right,
to a credit card. Yeah.
add your
14 to
child to
15.
correct. Add your child to your credit card. Because when you add your child to your credit card, especially for like a good year, year and a half, 2 years, you having a very high credit score, you're automatically giving your child a excellent start in life of having or building their credit or for your credit. So a lot of parents are not aware of that, but that's a
If your
great
credit is
tool,
good though. If
right? If your
if you
credit's
got
good,
you've taken
right,
care
you
of
have
your
to have good
payments
credit.
and stuff. If you're
Correct.
not, don't add it to them because it
Don't
will
do
just
it.
give them a bad head start.
Right. But if you're a responsible parent and you do pay your bills on time and you have good credit, good credit, excellent credit, help your child out by adding them to your credit card. Let them be an additional card holder to your credit card. Let them use the card, pay it off, teach them the responsibilities, and you can always remove them off the credit. But what you're doing now is helping them establishing their own credit, and they're going to get that high credit score like what you have, which is a great start for their adult life. It's a great start.
Absolutely.
Right. A lot of parents
Absolutely.
are not aware of that.
And that could also lead to other things like, them possibly owning a home at a young age as opposed to renting an apartment, right? Or maybe they want to own a condo or a co-op. But that could lead to something like that if you give them a head start with proper credit and better credit at a young age, the possibilities are going to be like endless.
Right. Like even with like I'm gonna give my son an example. So my son's been in the market for buying a car. And him and I have had, gosh, I can't even unlimited amount of conversations about buying a car. And his that young 21, you know, that young 21 wants that flashy, flashy, flashy. Um, and then they see the peers all around them buying all these flashy, expensive cars. So I've been battling with him, letting him know, listen, buddy, even though you're in a position where you can afford to buy the flashy car, don't make a immature or I would say dumb move and buy a $30,000, $40,000 car. Don't do it at 21. For a while, you couldn't understand why I'm saying it to him, but I said to him, you're 21. At 21, you want to buy your first car, I would say no more than about 5,000. Buy a little hoopty. You know, a little hoopty get you knock you around and whatnot. I feel any child's first car should be like a little hoopty. And then what you do is you buy that car and you buy that car outright cash. Now that's your car. Get yourself a little liability insurance, which is next to nothing. But at least you have your car. Your car is paid off, so that's no bill. That's no car note. That's no full car insurance you gotta get. Get a little liability insurance, just something to get you started as being an adult. Then what you do is the remaining money you have, you keep stacking it. You keep adding on to it, adding on to it, adding on to it. They have so many programs out here for first time home buyers, first time homeowners, and whatnot. Check into that. Buy yourself a piece of property. You don't have to live in any property, but buy yourself a little property. Doesn't have to be big. Just something that you can rent, that's livable, rent it out. Um, you can rent it out with a government, what do you call it? What is government programs, where you have some steady tenants coming into it. But buy yourself a little property. You don't have to live in it. But you buy the property, whatever the mortgage is, charge a little bit more than the mortgage. You have a little extra income coming into your pocket. Someone else living in your house in the meantime, whether it be for 10 years, 15 years, let them pay off the house for you. While they're paying off that house of tenants, work on buying a second one and you can buy a second house in another state. So by the time you hit 24, 25, you're a homeowner. You got your first house. Then you can work on, you can still live your life. Your car is paid for. Now you got yourself a little piece of property. Now you can start saying, okay, I want to buy a second home. You can buy another home in another state. You can leave it as it is, or you can rent that out. Let it pay for itself. And then after that, you can start thinking about what, you know, if you want to start a family, get married, have kids, but at least the foundation you've already started, and that foundation is solid. So if by chance at any point something may change in your life, whether you get married, have kids, you always have those two houses where you can say, okay, I now need to live in one of my homes. You
Hmm.
can do that. So you're not out there renting where you're wasting money. See, I find the issue is that a lot of parents are so eager when their children go 18 or 16, whatever the age is, wherever you live, whatever country, they no longer want to carry the responsibility of parenthood, or they're excited that their children leave the home. But have you truly given your children the tools they need for the real world? Have you talked to them about finances? Talk to them about paying bills on time? Have you talked to them about their credit? Have you talked to them about banking? You know, all of that. Sign up for my son and I, we kind of I mean, you know, Chris, we were banging heads for a few months behind that, a few months where
Yeah. Hmm.
I would not agree to him buying a $30,000, $40,000 car. Absolutely not. And I did not give a damn if it was his money or not, but I was like, nope, I don't agree to the purchase. Absolutely not. It's the most ridiculous purchase in the world. Now, again, that's my opinion and the advice to give my son. At the end of the day, he can do what he wants to do. But no, absolutely not. No, I said to him once he makes his first purchase of his own home, you know, if he wants to buy a luxury car at the age of 26 after he buys his first house, I don't care. If he wants to wait and buy his second house, then buy a luxury car, go ahead then. Then you can go ahead and buy that
Hmm.
luxury car. See what I'm saying? and then you can
Mhm.
enjoy the car. But why buy a 30, $40,000 car if you didn't have a bucket to piss in? Why do that? You're just
Right.
setting yourself up for failure. And these car companies, they would promise you a dream to get you to sign on the dotted line, knowing dang well when you drive off, they're gonna repossess that car any day now because they've done it so many times over and over and over and over to all these young kids that don't know no better.
And then boom, your credit's shot
Then your
back down
credit
the
shot.
trash. So I think, I think the most important thing that we also have to teach them is to do the research and not be afraid or intimidated to do research because there's people that will intimidate the kids. Their friends, like you said, your son's friend was in the nicer car, pulling up in a nice car. Like that's intimidating to your son, I'm sure. Like, now he feel like he got to get a nicer car. He got to get a nice car to match his friends because he can't get a hoopsie now. So it's just like setting them up to understand that they have to also do their research, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
my goal is to set my son up to the point where he's 13 now, so he has some time to go for to continue to build his credit and his financial responsibility. But I want to be able to have him secure enough to the point where when he does become of age, he can go buy what he wants.
Yeah.
He can
Yeah.
go get what
Yeah.
he wants. For graduation, if you want to, get you a nice car for graduation because you want to celebrate. Let's go get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go get it. Why not? Right? Because one, you have the credit. That's where it's going. It's going your credit, not mine. Right?
I agree. I agree. You're absolutely right. You're right.
You
But
know.
you're right. But it's like I just see so many young kids that make that first mistake. They get that settlement money. I've seen adults get a little settlement money. First thing they do, buy a what? Buy a car. Buy a
But
car.
why is that? But that is because they were not taught financial responsibility. That's not financially
Right.
responsible.
Right.
It's
But
not.
this is why we have to break that I want to say generation curse. You have to want to do better, but you can't do better unless you know how to do better. And this is why it's important to have the conversations with your children while they're young. Don't look their
Absolutely.
age and think they don't understand, they don't know. Have those conversations. Give your child an allowance. If your child wants something, make them earn it. They know Christmas is coming up. They know they can have a big long Christmas list. They can expect you to buy everything. Okay, well, you want certain things for Christmas. You know what? Tell me what you want now and it's summer. All right, what are you going to do to make me feel good about spending my money to buy you these items? Are you going to get good grades in class? I can keep your rooms clean. Teaching responsibility. Whereas, these kids nowadays have a sense of entitlement, but they don't want to work for anything. So in the real world, you have to work. In the real world, you have bills to pay. So make them or allow them, give them an opportunity to earn some money, as if it's a paycheck. We as parents have to go to work every day, don't we? We have to go to work every day. We got to pay our bills. We got to make sure the bills are paid on time, that they're fed, clothed, eaten, everything. So we have a responsibility. Teach them while they're young that they have a responsibility to do what they're supposed to do. Even if their responsibility is keeping their room clean, even if the responsibility is walking the dog, feed
What
the animal.
age do you think that you should start asking them to do chores for allowances? Like what age?
I think the respect for age is about, I mean, I would say as soon as they can fix their lips and ask you for something, then you can fix your lips and ask them you want something back
What's
in
that,
return.
2? That's
Personally,
at
no.
2 years old.
No, but I would say depends on the maturity of the child, but I would say you can start somewhere at about maybe 8 or 9. I would say 8 or 9. They can clean their room at 8 or 9. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be an immaculate clean like what we would do as a parent, but they can pick up after themselves,
Mhm.
close up off the floor and whatnot, straighten up the closet and everything, make up the bed. Yeah, 8 or 9 is decent. It is a decent age. And if they want to feel like, they got a little money in their pocket, keep your room clean, or every Friday, you gotta keep it clean every day. You mean they're kids. But if Fridays come along and they know it's the weekend and they want to go out that Saturday, say, you know what your chores are, straighten up your room. Once
Mhm.
it's been up the rim, give them a couple. You can give them a couple of dollars. Then that Saturday, take them out. Let them go with their little wallet, their little money, and everything. Take them somewhere, and whatever they want to buy, take them to that store. Let them buy it. If they don't have enough money to buy that, then you let them know. You know what, sweetheart? The item costs $30. You only got $23. Clean your room next week. You have the other balance of the money to come back to buy it. So they'll understand the importance of it. Or what I used to do with my kids, if they wanted something and the item they wanted was maybe $40 and they were short and had $35, I would say, you know what? I will let you borrow $5 from me. But guess what? When you get your allowance, guess what I want back? My $5. Now, they hated it with a passion. They were like, oh my God, you want your $5 back? Yeah, I do. You know why? Because when you have a credit card and you charge money on that credit card, $100 for a pair of Snickers, and then you got to pay that credit card back, it's the same principle. It's the same principle, right? You borrowed the money on your credit card to buy something, did you not? Well, guess what? You got to pay that credit card back. You got to catch them where they're young. It's the exact same principle.
See, I don't do that. I just say no. I feel like saying no is just like your card declining when
Well, they
you
know
try to
that too.
when you try to overdraft the purchase because
Yep.
my thing and then I don't because I fell for that okey doke where okay, I'll just go home and I'll sweep the kitchen tonight for $5. Like, okay, but that's what you're supposed to do anyway when you wash the dishes. Like that's just
Yeah.
normal stuff. So, so I got caught thinking like, why am I paying you to do stuff like that? So now I just pay for what he's supposed to do as far as like his school. So when those grades come in and you get those good grades, those grades that I set a mandate for, then here you go. That's when you get your allowance.
Well, I think it's important. We as parents have to take the lead on that, and we have to teach our
Yeah,
children from young. You know, I
absolutely.
I feel that all children should have, at some point, know what a passport is. I feel
Oh
that
yeah.
applications as far as travel and the required documents, a conversation you should have, so your children are not caught out there not knowing. My kids had passports since they were babies. They had passports, so they know when we travel, international traveling, you got your passport. They've always had state non-drivers IDs, state IDs. They've always had them since they were young, like 7 years old. They had them. When it came to them having debit cards and whatnot, even my daughter now, not so much my son, he's an adult, but when he was, um, under 18, when he was still in high school, even my daughter now, her debit card, um, I have it set up. Whereas if she goes to use her debit card and she has no money in there, guess what? Surprise, baby girl, decline. So
Mhm.
all of that just charging to charge or buying stuff knowing you don't have all the money there and it just be pulled out of my account, I put a stop on that. So when you're with your friends, you go out and you buy certain things, you better look in your account to see how much money you have in your account before you do anything, before you make any purchases. So you know how much buying power you have. So I've had to had both of them along the way of learning how to manage their finances. They had to get declined a few times and be embarrassed right in front of their friends, be embarrassed and say, oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart, it declined. I remember
Right.
my kids, both of them calling me, Mom, what does decline mean? Means you ain't got no money. That's what it means. It means you ain't got no money in your account to afford whatever you're trying to buy. So put something back or you can't buy it. That's it.
Party's
And
over.
no, yep. And no, I can't transfer no money into your account because you know why? You should have looked ahead of time to see how much money you have. So that's how they had to learn the hard way how to pay attention to how they spend their money. In the beginning, I made it easy, right? I want them to be embarrassed and not have sufficient money. So if
Mhm.
they went over, I just pull right on my account. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not really teaching them that true lesson of only spending what you have. So I remember changing it, not telling them, calling the bank and telling them to please change it. Whereas if they don't have the money, they ain't got the money. If they go to buy it, it declines. And when I got those phone calls, Mom, my card's not working. What do you mean it's not working? Well, the lady's saying how to have enough money. It said decline. Well, check your account balance. How much do you see in there? Well, that's how much you could afford. Go put something back or you can't buy the purchase. That's it. But they learned very quickly though. I've
Right.
never had that problem again. So it's very important. I feel it's an integral part of teenagers, or yeah, I would say our children, and you have to teach them the importance of responsibility, finances, balancing your money, managing your money, um, introducing the language of credit so they know what credit means. They know how to establish their credit. You got to talk to them how to establish the credit, maintain their credit, pay their bills on time, um, make responsible purchases, and make your money work for you. And if you want to, whatever you decide to do in life, because when you're your teens and early 20s, you don't know what you want to do. You don't want to, you don't know what you want to do. You want to do everything. You're not sure. So as you're figuring things out along the way,
Oh
you can
my.
still be responsible. You can still be responsible, but you're figuring things out along the way. That's how I feel. It's a very
It's
important
also
conversation to have.
it's right. It's also, as well as it is important to have the conversation. It's also important to know that they don't have to have um like a passport, or like if you can't like travel or go anywhere, you don't have to have a passport. You don't really have to have an ID at a young age, but it does help them, promote some sort of responsibility with having an ID and having to provide their ID when they go to, sign up for sports activities or after school programs, or even when they're walking to school or walking home from school or after school. You want them to have some sort of ID on them that, just in case something does happen, you have some sort of identification on your child, you know. But it's not, you don't have to go out and get all these things, but it's important to at least have the conversation, right?
See, I just see, my point of view is this. I know adults that are in their late 50s and 60s that have never been on an airplane. I know
Yeah,
adults that have never ever traveled anywhere besides
yeah, I do
the
too.
borough they live in.
Uh-huh.
So I feel that that's also generation of just not knowing. But for me personally, I didn't want that for my children. I want my children to know what it's like, to know that it's more to just their environment. There's a world out there that you haven't even explored yet.
Absolutely. But yeah, but you could afford to do that though. Like if people can't afford to do that, if
But it's
you
not
really
even a
can't
matter of affording. I feel that I think it's a necessity that parents should invest in their kids. And even if it's a matter of what you can and can't afford, if you live out here in the States, for an example, you have state to state to states. The same way parents can spend money on themselves and have cookouts, parties, you can take about $100 to $200. You can put that money aside for a whole year and take your kids on a vacation. What that means, just packing up the car and driving to another state, staying in a motel at $60 a night for 2 nights. You can do that and give your child that experience of a vacation where they drive 2, 3 hours. They can stay in a hotel for pool, do a little sightseeing, and drive back home. That's a vacation.
I know some struggling mothers with a bunch of kids that can't afford to take their kids on vacation.
But I can guarantee you that same struggling mothers, I'm sure they got their hair on point and their nails on point.
I don't know about that. I can't say that. I say
I'm
struggling, I mean
sure
struggling. I don't mean Instagram struggling.
if you have some parents that will say
So
how you have some mothers that say they're struggling, but yet as fast
yeah.
as they're struggling, they got that $300 weave all up in their hair and that $100 nail set on. That's four
Oh
hundred dollars
yeah,
right there.
exactly.
You can take 200 from that, go rent a car or drive your car, pack it up, get a full tank of gas, pack up a little bag, a little couple, a little overnight bag or so. Take your kid 2 hours away, stay in a motel for about $50, $60, and give your kid that experience. Give them an experience.
But we're
Take them
not
to
talking
a
about that. We're talking about flying on an airplane, passport out of the country.
right, but even if they can't afford to even travel internationally, you have JetBlue that tickets $39 round trip or $39 each way. There are resources out there. The ticket I've seen tickets as low as $39 each way. Round trip $39. You're looking at $70, maybe $80 a ticket. If you even if you're on public assistance or you may even have a job, you can put enough money aside and buy a round trip ticket for less than $100. You can
Listen,
you can
I'm with you.
you
I'm
can
with
take
you.
the
I
same
agree
kid
with you.
ID. Right. So I think to say that some families can't do it, they can. It's just a matter of do they want to. It
No,
doesn't
I
matter.
think
It
some
doesn't matter if
families
it's important
can't.
for them.
I'm gonna stick with it. Some families can't afford to do it. But that's what I'm saying. But if they can't afford to, that's fine.
Yeah,
Just
but you
fine.
know what? Right, but you can also listen. I don't
They can
know.
still promote it. They can still promote the idea. They can still enforce the idea. Because if they can't afford to go with their child, there's other things that could block them from also traveling on the plane, or so other
Yeah,
things that
but
could happen. So if you can't, and doesn't mean afford doesn't mean financial afford. It could be health wise. You can't afford to go on a plane or with your kids to travel because of some health reasons or financial reasons, whatever it is. They can still promote the idea to their kids, is what I'm saying. They can still enforce it. They can still have the conversation and open their mind up to those ideas.
yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, they can. They can. They can have those conversations about that. Yes, they can, but they can also create experiences for their children.
Yeah.
I personally think it's a cop out. I think it's a cop out, man. I do. I'm being honest because those type of things, it really annoys me because my children had a friend, and this was years ago, and I was coaching him for football, and he spent the weekend with us, and he was a good friend of my son's. And I remember saying to the kids, "Get dressed." We were going to Roosevelt Field Mall, and when we got to the mall, we walked through Old Navy when Old Navy was on his side. And this kid walked in the mall and he was shocked. He never knew, and he was 13, I want to say 13 or 14. He did not know Old Navy was real. He thought when he saw Old Navy on TV that it was something that was international in another country somewhere. He did not know Old Navy was real right here in the States. He never knew. That was the first time he had ever been in a mall and the first time he had ever been in the Old Navy. And I couldn't, I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? Because for us, it's, second nature. That was the very first time he had
What
ever
was
been in
the
a
reason
mall
though?
where he was living at the time. Was it, I don't want to say poverty stricken, but rough area. And his parents just didn't do anything with him. They worked and whatnot, but they just never went to the mall. They just never did anything. And all he knew was where he lived. In that part of Queens where he lived, that's all he knew. He had never ventured out of that. He had never ventured out of the neighborhood. Never did. So when I was coaching in that neighborhood for the years I was there, the 7 years, my son and him became very good friends. And I felt compassion for him because I couldn't understand how he didn't like a lot of things that we were doing as a family and he was with us, it was a first for him. But for us, it was like a normal routine. But for him, it was a first. It was a first, where I felt so sorry for him. I felt sorry for him. And, you know,
I don't want to blame the parents though, because you know when I used to work for Nassau County, um, I had the privilege of meeting a lot of um, you know, poverty stricken families in those neighborhoods and in those areas. And a lot of them actually do need the help. A lot of them, they may work, but they're being paid minimum wage. They're being paid so little that they can barely pay their rent in that
mhm.
neighborhood, barely put food on the table in that neighborhood, barely put clothes on their kids back in the neighborhood. So it's kind of like, they can't afford to have time to, okay, let's take it to the mall, because maybe they're working two jobs, maybe they're working so damn much to pay the bills they can't have the time to go to the mall, right? So it's just a lot of things that's going on in their head. I can't really fully say. Let me just, you know.
But this is why, even in their circumstances, is why, I feel, again, even in their circumstances,
Hmm.
it's even more vital to have conversations with your child that Even if they may see you struggling, you don't want your children to
You
struggle.
don't want them
Same
to
thing.
struggle.
You don't want them to struggle.
Bingo.
So if
Yep.
you see me struggling and you see how we're living, then you will want to have those conversations. Even if you don't know how to have those conversations, you have access to so much information. You can ask anybody, how can you do this or how can you do that? And this is where I build relationships with a lot of the parents when I was coaching youth football, with having those conversations, and they confided in me a lot. Um, but this is why you may not know any better as you as an adult, but you want better for your child.
Mhm.
You want to give your children a chance. And for us, you know, even my children hearing that, they were like, "What do you mean?" They couldn't understand it. And then I knew what was going on. And I hate to say that the same child now, unfortunately, from what I've been told, is now incarcerated. He's now
Oh wow.
incarcerated. Yeah, he's
Oh
now
wow.
incarcerated, where he fell victim to his environment.
Mhm.
He's now incarcerated. Yep. And when I
It's
found that
horrible to
out,
hear.
yep. And when I found that out, that absolutely, I mean, I cried for him because I was like, dang, us spending what time we did with him, my heart went out to him.
Yeah.
And I wished I could have just adopted him, just adopted him and given him a chance, because the school system he was in was awful, was absolutely awful. Um, he would ride his bike from Queens to our house, which was about 30 minutes, 45 minutes a day just to ride. No, about 30 minutes. He would ride from his house to my son's school at the time and wait for my son to come out of school just so he can walk in with him and my son's friends in a different school district, where he felt, like he wanted to be included. He had even asked me, can I help him get transferred to the school? He saw a glimpse of something better, you know? And I wished I was in a position to have adopted him
Mhm.
and helped him. And I wasn't in a position to, he had his mom, he had his family. But I want to say a couple of years later, a few years later, I found out that he had gotten locked up. He's incarcerated right now. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry that, he ended up being,
Yeah.
a product of his environment. It
Hmm.
always sucks like that. But that's also to piggyback on our point is to have these conversations, fill their mind with other things outside of their surroundings,
Yeah. Because your
like,
environment, right? Your environment
yeah.
doesn't do that. Your environment, listen, you don't have to be your environment. I must listen. You don't have to be your environment. You don't have to succumb to your environment. You don't have to. Like, you don't have to.
Hmm.
But you also need that positive person around you that inspires you and pushes you and teaches you another way. You need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If not, it will be generation of generation of generation of the exact same cycle, just going on and on and on. Yeah. But I remember him when I found out. I was like, oh my God, it broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart. It broke my heart when I found that out. Yeah, it was awful. But yeah, to go back to our conversation, that's why it's important. It's important, especially for our bronze skinned young man. We have to educate them while they're young. We have to let them know or give them at least some type of blueprint and how to maneuver in the adult world, how to give yourself an opportunity to leave your mark, to leave your legacy, to build your future, to build your empire, however you want to do it.
Hmm.
We have to, and us parents have to also, don't be so quick to tell your kids get out and find their place. Like, some people may call me crazy, but and again, your kids may not listen to you, they may not listen to you, but this is how I look at it. I would rather my children live with me until they are 20, no, no, say 30 years old. I would rather my kids live at home with me till they're 30 years old and know that while they're living here with me, that they are building their future. And when I say building their future, they are taking the opportunity to live at home and they
Mhm.
have now gone aboard their hoopty car for like 5,000 or less. It's paid off. They have the liability insurance. I'd rather them keep on working and save another maybe 30, 40,000 and go buy
Mhm.
the first time home buyer's house or the first piece of property and rent it out. Rather them keep on staying at home and then they go buy a second house in another state. And that could be like the little summer rental or the little summer house or whatever. They can buy that. And then once they got their two pieces of property under their belt, the car's paid off, they got that money coming in. And then if at that point now they say, Mom, I'm going to move out and move out into their own home, I am fine with that.
I agree with you. I just don't know if I'm agreeing with 30. I
Well,
think
but
maybe like
it depends because,
25.
right,
Because
but
you
it
got a
depends.
whole, you got a whole 5, 6 years of adulthood on you now. So
But
you gotta
look,
at
but at
least.
the same time, if I know my kids are making progress and they're building their foundation for their families, and along the way they're still living their lives, they're traveling, they're going out, they're dating, whatever the case may be, but they still have their priorities where they have to be. It doesn't bother me because I know they're setting their foundation for their future and their family, and they keep building onto it. See what I'm saying? So what
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
rather them do that than to go out there in the adult world, pay rent to somebody and pay somebody else's house when they could be at home and investing their money in them and their future and their foundation. That means more to me than me saying, oh, my kid has his own place, but now he's paying rent to Lord knows who. Now he's struggling. Now, you know what I'm saying? No,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
we have to stop even doing that. Have a conversation with our kids and say, hey, listen, you're graduating from high school soon. You're graduating from college, whatever the case may be. What do you want to do? Just have that little final conversation. And then you can give them a suggestion. I suggest you while you're living at home, do blah, 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 blah. They may listen or they may not listen. See what I'm saying? They
Right.
may listen or they may not. If they listen, kudos to you. If they don't, you know what? They can never say you didn't tell them. You told them. And along the way, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to screw up. They're going to screw up, but still be there to kind of navigate them. You got to kind of navigate them while they're making these decisions as young adults. But that's what I'm going to say about this topic.
Mm. Well, that was a good topic, girl. I must say.
Yeah.
I've learned something today too. I always learn something at the end of all of our episodes. I'm always learning something new. I really
Mm-hmm.
do appreciate that every single time. And I hope, everybody out there listening, I hope you guys learn something as well. Just remember the importance of teaching or talking about financial responsibility to our kids at a young age, can help them, get out your house a little quicker.
Yeah, they
Uh,
should. They also should teach it in school as well too. That should be a
that's another
subject
story.
in school.
You already know how I feel about that topic. That's another
Yeah, but they
topic,
should.
okay?
They should teach it in school. You know what? We
Yeah,
could probably get some of that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Tune in next week. We're here every single Thursday. Um, Check us out on all podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. We're all on there. Check us out on YouTube. Like, comment, and share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. We have a bunch of fun stuff coming for you guys. Stay tuned.
Good night.